Hey everybody, where do you start your day? And I start every day right here at my workbench. Let me show you why. So every morning when I wake up, I make a cup of coffee and I come out here to start my day and I start planning what I'm gonna do in my shop. It's basically another desk of mine out here. It's where everything begins. So the morning usually begins with my notepad and just listing all the things I want to accomplish out here. So this is where I said everything begins. It's my bench, but it's also my benchmark. So what you have to do, and I have videos on the SedgeTool channel on this, is I always make sure that this is level, because if I'm making a chair or I'm doing something, this is where I set it to cut my legs. So what I do is I grab a level that I trust and I check everywhere to make sure it's level. So I have my bench on casters, but they flip up out of the way, because what you want is you want a bench that is rock solid, because when you're sawing or chopping, you want to make sure you have no movement. So I bought this bench about 30 years ago from Lee Valley. It's the Veritas bench. And it came with 2 vises. And the vise hardware is still available. This is the Veritas twin screw vise. It gives me basically a great end vise, but I can also use it here. Over here, the front vise I have right here, and I use this a lot for planing long boards. And then on the end, I didn't attach it to the bench. I've attached this Moxon vise. This is where I cut all my dovetails on top of a cabinet. And it's very stout. It butts up against the bench at the end. The bench is divided, okay, by these 2 pieces here. But in the middle is a tool trough. And I used to just throw everything in the middle. But then I started getting some scraps of some of the Kaizen foam left over, and I've put it in there. And this has helped tremendously for me, because I see where everything is. I know where everything is. And if something's missing, I know exactly where it goes. I don't like to have a lot of clutter on top, but there's some things that I use all the time. I have my strop readily available to polish an edge if I'm starting to get hesitation, say with one of my chisels. I always have a bench hook, and I always have my chop block here. So in the top of a bench, you have holes. We call them dog holes. And what they do is they hold dogs, and there's a variety of dogs out there. Now these were my originals. They were Veritas, and they're 3/4. But if you notice on my bench, and I've done a video on this, I use these all the time. Okay, they're cut, whatever. But these are clamping elements by SedgeTool. But these were bored, or the dogs were bored at 20 millimeter. I cannot work without this, and I'll show you why in a minute. But I waited years and years, and I finally bored all my dog holes out to what? 20 millimeter. Now, because these 3/4 dogs have a spring, these still work. So what a dog does, and I'll use this for a reference, is if I'm hand planing or scraping something, it impedes the forward momentum. But what if I'm sanding something? And this is why I like these, okay? They're quick. If I'm sanding something, this thing is slipping all around this piece. But this part of the clamping element is an eccentric cam in here, and look, it holds it in really stout. So here's another dog, a different form, okay, but it does the same thing. But I like this because guess what? It's a little lower than 3/4, and I can use this part of the clamping elements to hold it in. Absolutely perfect. If I need a quick dog, I have these little short ones in here. These are from Veritas, and guess what? They're spring loaded, so I can go really quick with these. And I get a couple of those in the top, and they work great. So depending on the thickness of material you want your dog to stop, You have different heights. So that one fits in flush there, a little bit taller, or you want one medium. So if you've been watching the SedgeTool series of videos, I got these about 2 years ago. These are the TSO TDS 13s. Almost every single video since, I've been using them. And I'll show you how I use them with my twin screw vise. These are adjustable and they fit into those 20mm dog holes, okay? I always have my 5mm wrench here for adjustments, okay? And they're about a 1/2 inch thick. But see, the vise now becomes a clamp, okay? So if I put this in, I can clamp this piece just like that, and this is 3/4 piece, and these are lower, about a 1/2 inch, so that makes a great way to hold your work. And the twin screw vise becomes my clamp. If I want to work in this direction, I just have to move these forward, and then I can clamp in this direction as well for longer pieces. So I've always had on this side 2 sets of holes and 2 sets of holes. So it really opened up when I mentioned earlier, I bored them at 20mm. But what really opened up again is, you'll see here, and I just did 3 or 4, I got to rebore the rest of this run. I did a 3rd set of holes. And it sounds funny, but it was because of this piece right here. I always struggled when I was scraping or hand planing really thin stock. But these ultra low profile with these dogs fit right in there, just like that. And if I need to plane or scrape something at a low profile, less than a 1/2 inch, it makes it wicked easy and it doesn't damage my material. So on my bench, when I'm planing a long board, I could take it like this and put it in here like this and lock it in, but guess what? It wants to tilt down. So on my bench, I have this board jack. It's called a set of drawers. And it's basically my dead man. So I'm gonna pull this out ever so slightly, rest my board on it, and as I put it in, now it dampens the downward tilt of my board, and I can go right to hand planing with this. Absolutely perfect. So this set of drawers is always evolving. But to my left, you'll see it's where I grab a lot of my measuring devices, layout pieces. I have like this as my woodpeckers, but this is ever evolving. I get something new, I cut it into my Kaizen. Then over here, I have a lot of my hand scraping, layout, my blue spruce macking knife, which I just adore. Then also my centering devices, whether I'm doing layout for my lathe. Okay, and then down below here, which is going to migrate over to the miter saw stand, is I have 5 pouches or rolls of carving tools that I open up, and I'm always trying to sort through them. But now I'm going to have them in my Kaizen foam back in my miter saw station in a couple different drawers over there. I have a Moxon vise. Yes, I could use the tail vise down there by Veritas, but I like it right here. I built it. I use bench crafted hardware. But if I'm going to cut a dovetail, this screw on this hardware is so quick. So say I'm cutting a dovetail, I'm just going to make a quick cut here, okay? And then what's really nice is I can flip it around really quick and get to work really quick. It speeds up the operation, but it also places me at the exact height I want to be at. So I also like the vise down here, my Moxon vise, because when I'm cutting the dovetail and I need to cut the shoulders really quick, I can just tilt it over and I can lock it in super quick and I can cut my shoulders really easy. So over the years, a couple other things you may not think of. Where did I say at the beginning of the video where I walk out every day? Where do I stand? Right here. And if you look down, I have a comfortable mat. And I'm going to tell you, it may not be thick, but that little extra cushion helps a lot. I stand here the majority of the time. But there's a lot of times, and I didn't do this in my early years, I had this up against what? The wall. Nowadays, I find myself more and more and more coming over here and working from this side. And it just gives you extra options when you have to work something at a different angle. So there's an area of the bench that I always try to keep open, and there's a reason for that. This, like any shop, your benches, your table saw, and other auxiliary tables, outfeed tables, should all be the same height. So when I'm ripping larger pieces or longer pieces on my table saw, this is my infeed table or my support table. So check it out. It's the same height. So when I'm ripping, I just have to feed it through. And by the time it gets here, I'm at the end and I'm pushing it through all the way through onto my outfeed table. So over the years, we've done a bunch of short videos and they've emanated from this bench, from drilling 3/4 to 20 millimeter holes. All of those videos we've done, they'll be in the description below. So as we always say, from the SedgeTool shop, be positive, stay sharp, and we mean wicked sharp.